we have left our session at the question on schizophrenia diagnosis, as some of you may recall. And I didn't want to leave that without a response back then, but we have agreed that we will return to this so that we can give a fuller response to what is being presented here. So since we are less under time pressure, we have, I think, just about enough time to respond to what we've got. I particularly feel into that what has been shared in this rather longish background, and what strikes me is the way you have outlined everything here has this clarity, definitely that presence of the sense of witness. So in other words, if I were to analyze your state, your psychological state, just based on what you have written here, I would definitely not make any conclusive remarks in terms of any clinical how to put it. It doesn't seem to me that this letter comes from someone who is suffering from schizophrenia, if you wish, or to put it plainly. What rather strikes me is someone who has a very sound and very clear understanding of the state one is, which in itself also gives us this a very, very reassuring feeling that responding to these questions can be more direct and not necessarily treating this as a case in pathology and immediately following with all that protocol that very often medical personnel would resort to, simply because someone's behavior, someone's symptomatology may seem fitting in their books. And I also feel compelled to speak more to this because in your last sentence you have asked to share my views on this topic in general and maybe specifically to your case. So therefore I want to take this as an opportunity, picking it up where I have left it last time and maybe just going over it one more time again into the connection between what serves us as spiritual background, what serves us as that ideological, philosophical, spiritual ground upon which we can rest. And my assessment, which did not meant to serve as a criticism to that particular teacher that you have stumbled across the YouTube, that Muji is very well known for, because he enjoys that reputation, and he is known as being that YouTube phenomena, as many other teachers that rose during the age of the social media interactions. So aside from what could be called the teachings and the perspectives and the methodologies that are used by that particular teacher, what I want to bring your attention is to the importance of what platform we stand on in our understanding, given we go through a certain process which may require support and reassurance in that fragile and tender state, rather than further pulling the carpet beneath someone's feet when it comes to, let's say, what is individuality here stands for, what role it plays. Thinking processes, mind itself. It is very well known that in some of the spiritual circles, and it's not just today, but going back quite some time ago, thinking, mind has been repeatedly undermined, attacked, belittled, and so forth. So, likewise, the counter waves of the teachings which aimed to rehabilitate the working of the mind, healthy, creative, productive thought processes also have been there. What immediately comes to mind to me is the very slim book by Swami Muktananda when he wrote about the mind, and it came at the same time when Rajneesh, later Osho, was or became known for his unapologetic, uncompromising, nothing short of attacks on the working of the mind. Everything to do with the mind was belittled. Everything to do with thinking, mind. And not just Osho. We could add luminaries such as Jiddu Krishnamurti, you know. So it's a kind of Indian thing in itself. But what struck me back in the years when I was reading Swami Muktananda's almost leaflet size of that publication on the mind is that in the depth of the yogic teachings, certainly how Tantra views this, the whole purpose of self-realization is being able to reflect this light of your own awareness. And the only instrumentality which reflects that light back is our mind. So therefore this mind is not just some kind of anachronism to get rid of. It's not some kind of byproduct of evolution which outlived itself, and for the one who wants to enjoy the glory of the self, it simply has no purpose. Far from it. Contrary to that, mind is that what reflects the awareness and brings about the possibility of that contemplation. Without mind, there is no possibility to contemplate what the loftiest realization is all about. Because one way or another, whatever methodologies, whatever traditions we may adopt to check our own processes, whatever we are gravitated towards, at the end of the day, it all comes to this moment in time when a greater sense would need to be made of all the experiences we went through. And even scripturally speaking, and that, by the way, was confirmed by notorious figures who were almost enjoyed a rebel-like status in their own respective settings. Krishnananda Atmamenon, known for saying that it is the role of the preceptor, the role of the teacher, the guru, to interpret spiritual experience. And we know that the figure of that particular sage is being held in high regard in the contemporary non-dual circles. And yet, even when it comes to his teachings, he was very clear about this, that it is through the possibility of being able to synthesize all that one went through, and without healthy, creative, expansive, and well properly working mind, it is impossible. So therefore, this again, more detailed entrance into this particular question with regard to what teachings perhaps already have been influencing this particular questioner, without him perhaps even being fully aware how these teachings were already serving at the background of what he was going through. Because if somehow, and don't forget, some teachers command great sense of authority behind the entourage, behind the way that the teaching is delivered, how it is delivered, and that sense of authority then seeps through for those more impressionable. So it has a plus side, but it also has the other side of that coin. So the more impressionable ones, for those who are far from entering the sense of sovereignty, this may become as do's or don'ts. This may become as heavily bended towards certain direction, attitude, which in this case certainly doesn't do the service. So that is in addition to what I have responded in the previous session, and to continue, because this will be in general, speaking in general, towards that whole situation, towards the importance of what teachings do we adopt, and how these teachings that we at some point adopt became in service of what we are going through. If these teachings are truly in service of what we are going through, then this kind of situations will not present themselves. And this is a very clear example. So therefore, we don't want to miss an opportunity to tackle this. And we will tackle it again and again when need arises. Now, back to the questions themselves, and I will read again the first set of questions. How to conquer schizophrenia? Is this a wrong, deflected Kundalini awakening? Is there too much energy in the lunar channel? Shall I keep taking the antipsychotic drugs? How to regain natural impulses and spontaneity? Okay, so my suggestion was to stop taking any antipsychotic drugs, because all of them are suppressing drugs. They all have suppressing quality. In other words, these two questions put together already give us an insight into an impossibility of reconciling the two. Shall I keep taking the antipsychotic drugs? Question mark. How to regain natural impulses and spontaneity? If antipsychotic drugs are taken, spontaneity and natural impulses becoming more and more dampened, more and more subdued. This is the nature of all, without exception, drugs that aim to numb our nervous system. I mean, this is a whole topic in its own right. Literally, we can dedicate entire darshan just to that. What is it going on in our nervous system when we undergo through these phases? Each successive phase of awakening, beginning with the phases that precede awakening proper, as we speak about them in the modules dedicated to the full process of Kundalini. And you, I'm sure, will recall that we spoke about these phases of internalization. So a lot of things that you have shared here actually fall into that, what is natural, legitimate phase of internalization. Greater sensitivity, lesser propensity wanting to be in the company of people or in situations when that is a drag in itself, when that simply drains our resources, drains our energy. It is the propensity to go inward, more internalized, spend more time alone in nature or with those with whom there is no need for a casual conversation, let alone energy depleting chit-chat. So these already in itself are natural, normal phases, mark of the process. And nervous system still, of course, goes through these jolts depending on the way and how we all are predispositioned by nature in terms of our psychophysiological setup, right? The constitution in terms of, let's say, from the point of view of holistic system of Ayurveda. And maybe it's good to recall that someone who is by constitution more robust in the build in every respect, let's say Kapha is in the first place, then they will have more endurance. There's more in terms of the neurophysiology that can withstand this, what for someone who has Vata predominantly would make them scatter all over the place. So this plays tremendous role, tremendously important role. So everything that falls under the category of Vata management becomes a must, because Vata, among other things, rules nervous system. So this is why we keep bringing that reminder whenever there is an opportunity. Now, antipsychotic and antidepressant drugs do not work in any preventive way. They do not work in any way that restores and balances nervous system. They don't. I'm sorry, folks, but they don't. All they do is to work in such way that they make certain maybe compartments of the nervous system less acutely firing. So in other words, in plain language, it's making us Dhamma, Namma in every way. It makes us more numb. It's tempting almost to bring this classic track from the Pink Floyd's iconic album known as The Wall. Remember that track, Comfortably Numb? One of, just as a footnote, please forgive me, cannot help myself, but there is this version, a concert one, where David Bowie actually on stage as a guest performer, and without Roger Waters, who has written the song, as he has written the whole album, that particular part is being sung by David Bowie. Beautifully, completely added new tones, new nuances to that. And together with David Gilmour, they have this duet there. And that Comfortably Numb, remember, and that whole kind of lyrics, how, literally it's your visit to the doctor. Yeah, okay, show me where it pains. Okay, don't worry, it's not going to last long. Boom. Ah, okay, good, it's working. Okay, time to go. So this is what the whole so-called treatment. So there is no treatment at all. What it does, it sweeps and pushes everything under the rug repeatedly. So unfortunately, in our day and age, modern medicine does not know how to treat anything that falls under the category of psychic illness. None. I may sound here like, who the heck are you to talk about that? Do you have a degree? No, I don't. In fact, I have to immediately say that, my understanding of allopathic medicine is skin deep. But what I do understand, and what I've witnessed rather in the 55 years of my life, seeing that among the family members, in close friends, encounters, throughout the whole entire life, anyone who crossed that border of what was considered to be normal, and whenever they were treated, whenever they were laid hands on by so-called people in profession, they messed their lives further. So when it comes to awakening, it's detrimental to our long-term well-being. So therefore I took such act of whatever that may be, or audaciousness to say, you go off these drugs right now. You'll be better off to have a glass of hot goat's milk at night with a lump of ghee, and you will sleep really well with a quarter of a teaspoon of nutmeg grounded, you will be knocked out. Your socks will be off your feet, as they say, because it's a natural sleeping pill. You'll be better off taking herbs which will begin to balance left and right sides of the nervous system and the hemispheres of the brain, because that's what goes out of whack. You talk about this, trying to explain to me what schizophrenia is. It's separation or division between feeling and what the brain does, the thinking and the feeling. Maybe that's the medical explanation. But the root of what is going on in your psyche is not known and cannot be just fallen under that single line, schizophrenia. So therefore I said there's no such thing as schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is an entrance in the book, medical book. Why? Because there is no understanding of what is going on in the psyche at a deeper level. Do you see what I'm trying to say? I'm not denying that there is discomfort. I'm not denying that there is a sense of unease. Maybe more than that, more than what you have written here. But what I'm trying to say from the place that I am and the trust that you gave me, that this is not schizophrenia. What you're going through is a legitimate process of unfoldment and maturation of consciousness. If you hear me clear now, you will understand that things are now in your hand, in your hands only. So if you give that to the people in medical profession, then you may later on have much greater difficulty to retrace your steps back so that you can actually have some sense of legitimate autonomy and sovereignty of the process, because it will be taken out away from you. It's very difficult to return, because that what is being swept repeatedly under the carpet, in fact, falls short of a true measure of what that really means. It goes all down in the deeper tissues, in the deeper structure of the neurophysiology. So, no, I don't see any wrong, deflected Kundalini awakening. Nothing of what you have shared here shows that. All it shows is that you are most likely going through that, what just need rehabilitation, adjustments. You need to be propped up. You don't need teachers to tell you, drop your ego, drop your mind, jump off the cliff kind of teachings. No, you need teachers who tell you, you're wonderful, you're beautiful, step into your garden, put your feet on the grass, put your hands into the soil, do the gardening, okay? Touch your skin filled with oil, connect to your body is divine. This is the teachings you need right now. All these teachings maybe will be of value later when you need to do that. Maybe the last step will come when somebody will need to come and tell you, look, don't worry about it. You never came here. You never existed. But it's nonsense. Right now, that teaching doesn't do you service. Which takes us to your second question. How can I alleviate the energetic vulnerability? How do my thoughts and feelings have an influence on other people and vice versa? In what way is everything interconnected, interrelated? How can I alleviate the energetic vulnerability? You can only prop up what you can at your end to insulate your nervous system, and with that energetic vulnerability will go. Just to give you an example, if you're sitting somewhere, right in the house, and there is and it's a very windy, cold day outside, and though you are indoors, there is maybe a window open, a door somewhere, or a crack somewhere, and this draft is blowing and make you feel very uncomfortable somewhere in the body. You see, you are indoors, you're not outside, you're not exposed to the wind, but you feel uncomfortable. That's what it means to insulate. All it takes is to get up and shut that door, shut that window. Insulate. In the same way, when in our nervous system we have this, at times, unwanted extra openings which makes us feel uncomfortable in our skin. That's what means to prop up the nervous system. And that is Vata management. All of you will be given more on the importance of self-management in the Kundalini care. So we'll cover that yet again. But just to say here, without understanding what these basic doshas represent, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, you will not understand properly what goes out of whack each time you skip a meal, dehydrate, didn't take a rest on time, eat the wrong food at the wrong time, and the list goes on. And all of a sudden, you feel like, oh my God, colics here, colics there, I'm not feeling well. And then you begin to feel worse because Vata is known as the king of the doshas. When king doesn't feel well, the whole kingdom is in disarray. Havoc is everywhere. If the king has stomachache, nobody rests in the palace. Okay? That's the kind of to give you an idea. And yet it's the easiest dosha to treat. Why? Because it's the most mobile. There is an Ayurvedic understanding, proverb and way of speaking. Disease begins at the level of Vata, but comes to the full service and maturation when tissues are affected, which is the seat of Kapha, because that's already the reality of cohesiveness of water and earth. You see? So this is how you alleviate the energetic vulnerability. You cannot alleviate that by any mental trickstery. It's a physical thing. It's a bodily thing. It's taking care of yourself. Now, with regard to how do your thoughts and feelings have an influence on other people and vice versa, yes, to tell the truth, I have no idea, I have no clue. Yes, I can intellectually explain to you how I understand that. Yes, because we are all interconnected. Yes, there's a ground of consciousness. Yes, it's because Om Namah Shivaya, because all there is Shiva. So all this is what I will give you as a response to that. Quite frankly, I prefer to say honestly, I have no clue of how we affect others and others affect us. It's a long thing. Maybe Deepak Chopra can answer that question, but I cannot. In what way is everything interconnected, interrelated? In every way. Absolutely every way. So butterfly effect that's what it means, right? Everything is interconnected and interrelated because everything is everything. You see? So, don't even worry about that right now. Sometimes these aphorisms of people who have created oikumens and empires, whether they are motivational speakers or great entrepreneurs of our time, whenever we come across something which is suitable for us, we should always utilize that. That's the intelligence. That's being able to learn at a given. And Steve Jobs, for example, whatever your personal opinion may be about the man who brought us the apple, he is known for saying that do have great ideas and long-term desires, but always work on what is available to you at a given moment in time, however small, and complete each small task before you move to the next. This is the way to greatness. Because if we only have greatness and only think about that, but unable to do small things because it's not great enough, we scatter ourselves all over the place. Whereas if we are able to complete something here and now, whatever that is, maybe just getting and planting that little lovely small decorative rose bush in a pot that we like, that will give us joy, in the kitchen where we eat every morning, we tend to, gives that sense of something being achieved, that small, infinitesimal, but quite pleasant in the making task. Just to give an idea. So this is the way to greatness. You have that long-term goal, but you do these small little steps. So this loftiest aspiration for every sincere spiritual aspirant should be, of course, realizations of one's ultimate reality. Whatever that is, Godhead, One, Allah, Buddha, nature, Christ, consciousness, Shiva, whatever that is, whatever that may be culturally and otherwise, comprehensible or not, there has to be something we work on towards on a daily basis. This is an attitude. And that what also helps to ground us in the process. Okay? And with that, we move to the following up question.